We have Donna Smith, the Texas Beef Initiative, who is a guest of Mark Lucas Kelly. We have a visiting Rotarian from Arlington, Chris White, who is a guest of Edward McLinn. And we also have Texas Veterans Commissioner Chuck Wright, who is a guest of Chris Daniels. Welcome.
Thank you, Laura. To our visitors, we're so glad you chose to join us today, and we hope you come back soon. Welcome. Another quick thank you I'd like to say, and no, they don't know I'm going to do this. Everyone that worked with us helping check everyone in today, would you please stand so that we can just say thank you? We have John Kirk, we have last meeting notes Russ, we've got Cindy, we have Ed McLinn, Ricky, Garrett, Kevin, Tom, and Chris. That's our IT folks also that always help us each week, so thank you. It takes a lot of volunteers to make each week possible. Now let's take a moment to thank our wonderful program sponsor, Metropolitan Touring, courtesy of our friend, Rotarian Maria Woolman. Metropolitan Touring, now in its 70th year, is offering exciting tours of Ecuador and expeditions to the Galapagos Islands. Galapagos Islands. It's one of those days. Thank you. It takes a village. Please contact Maria to make some incredible memories. She would love to help you. Thank you, Metropolitan Touring. All right, everyone. It's that time. Time for our four-way test. What is our four-way test? Those of you that are guests, you may wonder. That's what we live by each week. What we think, say, and do. And not just here in Rotary between these two bells at lunchtime, but throughout the week as we interact with everyone day in and day out. So we hope you join us. To our visitors, you can join by viewing the screen. First, truth. Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendship? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Great job, everyone. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. Ladies and gentlemen, please help welcome to the stage our newscaster, Howard Oshuler, partner with Weaver. Take it away.
Thank you, President Rebecca. First off, let me wish everybody a happy Pi Day, although I'm not sure the folks in the kitchen got that because we have cobbler. Anyway. All right, so in the past, you've heard me, when I've done the newscast, tease up that we're going to talk about some fun accounting and tax things. And remember, I always commented that there is no such thing. But today I'm actually going to follow through because we are in the middle of tax season. Us auditors call it busy season, but here we go. Before I start, I do want to dedicate this discussion to our hero, Luca Pacioli. Have you ever heard of Luca? Well, he's widely credited with the second most important invention ever, which is double entry bookkeeping. He was a thank you. He was a Venetian monk and a buddy of Da Vinci's. And just to put it in context, the most important invention ever was indoor plumbing. Think about it. All right. The current US income tax system was dated back to 1913 with the passing of the 16th Amendment. However, did you know that the IRS was formed in 1862 when there was an income tax enacted to help pay for the Civil War? And during the first 9 years of Prohibition, the IRS was in charge of enforcing that. And I see some of you longtime members nodding your head in remembrance of that. All right. So who remembers the gangster Al Capone? Again, the longtime members, yes. No one could seem to nab him for all the alleged bad things he either did or directed, but ultimately the government did get him convicted on tax evasion. He got 11 years for that. In 1987, the IRS required that you add the Social Security number for your dependents. Interestingly enough, there was a reduction in the US child population of over 7 million children that year. And we always think about US income taxes when we're talking tax. But let's talk about some interesting things from the state or foreign tax world as well, which is actually even more interesting, as you'll see. Did you know that in Indiana, marshmallow cream is tax exempt, but marshmallows are not? Similarly, in Texas, deodorant is taxable, but antiperspirant is not, because antiperspirant is a drug. Anyone got any antiperspirant? All right. Remember when you were a kid and your cereal always had a toy in it? That's because Canadian cereal companies get a tax break for that. In Germany, prior to 2002, bribes were actually tax deductible. And another one of interest for some of our older members, once you turn 100, you're exempt from filing and paying taxes in New Mexico. All right, and finally, there is something called a metabo law in Japan. All adults between 40 and 74 have to get their waistline measured each year and pay a fine or a tax if it's greater than 33.5 inches for men or 35.4 inches for women. Thank goodness I don't live in Japan. All right, be sure to be nice to your CPA. They have a lot going on right now and are doing their best to get everyone's returns done on time. Send them an email to tell them they're doing a great job, and don't forget to pay their bill timely. In fact, send them a check right now for the bill that's going to be coming next month.
Thank you, Howard. We do have a few announcements. We're going to start with President-elect Ms. Ann Sheets, retired CEO, Campfire First Texas, to present today's Community Grant Award.
Thank you, Rebecca. Today's grant is for $5,000, and it's for a great organization, Big Brothers and Big Sisters Lone Star Greater Tarrant, to fund operational program expenses. Accepting the check for this organization today are Taffy Olchevsky and Maeve Mitchell.
We didn't hear that.
Just as a reminder, and we appreciate all that you do for the community, Big Brothers and Big Sisters, as a reminder to the club, we can only make these grants through the generous support of the membership. I would now like everyone in the membership who has a gold badge to please stand so we can thank you. These are folks who have stepped up and given a minimum of $100 per billing cycle, along with their Rotary dues, to either the Children's Fund or the Endowment Fund. Thank you very much. You too can have a gold badge by making such a contribution, and you can easily do that by scanning the QR code. Thank you.
And if you're not able to scan the QR code, you can find Aurora right there, and she will take care of you. Thank you, Ms. Ann, and congratulations, Taffy and May. We appreciate it, and we really look forward to you coming back to give us a Grants in Action update to see what you've been working on. Now it's time for membership news. As we just discussed, we would not exist if it was not for our members, for all of you. We have a blue badger today. Mr. Russ Lugo, come on up here and let's change out your red badge for your shiny new blue badge. It's over here. Now, please come up here. So have you already joined committees, committee chairs? You know what I'm trying to do here.
I have not yet.
Okay, he has not yet, so committee chairs, Mr. Russ is available. Thank you so much. We're
Thank you.
so glad you're here. All right, continuing with our wonderful membership news, we have 2 new members to introduce today. And our immediate past president, Kirk Driver, is the proposer of both. Kirk, please come join us at the podium. He's working to beat Bob Mitchell's record.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have the honor of introducing 2 new members. Why don't y'all both come on up here? First one I'm going to introduce is Deputy Chief Chris Daniels of the Fort Worth Police Department. Chief Daniels, he's been on several years, actually 19 years with the police department now. So I met him just a few years ago, and it's pretty crazy that in all these years that we've worked on this department, we really haven't crossed each other's path until the past few years. His first time to come to a Rotary meeting was a few weeks out, well, what, about a week after the Sandman Hotel explosion. And we sat right over here, and he's there about half the meeting, and then he looks down at his phone, he says, I gotta go. So what's up? He said, there's a gas leak like 3 blocks from here. And of course, I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, this couldn't end well, but luckily it was a false alarm. So let me tell you a little bit about Chris. 19 years, Fort Worth Police Department. He's 10 years married, has 4 kids. He's got a bachelor's degree from Tarleton State, and he's currently in grad school at the University of Virginia. And in 2024, he graduated from the FBI National Academy. So everybody give it up for my friend, Chris Daniels.
Thank you very much. Super excited to be here. When Kirk first invited me, I thought, I don't know if this is the place for me because he sat me right here in front of everybody and I had to take off. But a couple of meetings later, I believe it was Mike Maddox, the Rangers pitching coach. He was here talking about the Rangers, and I knew in that moment this was the place for me. I was going to come back, so it's great to be here. Thank you very much.
Interesting fact?
Fun fact?
Fun fact.
Ooh. I'm going to regret this, but I'll tell it anyway. When I was 12, I committed arson. It was an accident. It wasn't on purpose, but it was our neighbor's barn. This was a 40,000 square foot structure. I was playing with fire. The barn, it disappeared. Neighbors did not like me for about a year. I was in a ton of trouble, but it was all taken care of. So this actually came up during my background investigation process 20 years ago when I applied with the department, and I had to explain it. And I remember the polygraph examiner laughing at me the whole time. I'm like, seriously, you know, it was a mistake. It was an accident. So we handled it.
Good to know.
Yeah, good to know. Thank you very much.
All right. That's how he ended up at the police department and not the fire department. All right, next person I'd like to introduce you guys to is my friend Drew Carlton. Drew is the president and CEO of Mesa Springs Mental Hospital, okay. He was in the Marine Corps, 4 years, left as a corporal. He's been married 8 years. He's got 3 kids, and he went to A&M Nursing School for hospital administration, went to Texas Women's University for nursing, and he went to UTA for healthcare administration. So I've known him, actually met him through John Kirk, and we hit it off, both of us being former jarheads. And we'll take it from there. I'd like to introduce you to Drew.
I was a little bit hesitant to join once I met Kirk and spent a little bit of time with him, but he eventually talked me into it. Again, I'm just absolutely thrilled to be a part of this organization. I can't imagine so many stakeholders in one small confined area that all have the same mission. So again, community service, anything mental health related, veterans, I'm 100% on board with. I've already reached out to the Veteran Committee too as well. So again, my friend Chuck Wright from Texas Veterans Commission here today too as well. So again, really thrilled to be a part of this organization. Interesting fact, I Love Lucy. I don't know if there's any other I Love Lucy fans here, but one of my favorite shows. I think it's classic. Thank you.
Welcome, gentlemen. Welcome. I have your red badges That's right.
All right, let's see. We got Drew.
Thank you.
Got Chris right here. Look at this, Red Badgers.
Thank you, Kirk. Our new Red Badgers. Congratulations, Drew and Kirk and Chris, and welcome to the Rotary family. Now, please help me welcome our chairperson of the day, Robert Holt, Managing Partner, Holt Capital Partners. Robert, come take it away.
It's nice to see so many of my old friends out here. I'm not sure I've been to a meeting in about a decade, but I see a friendly face waving to me. I'm pleased to be able to introduce Paul Greenwell today. Paul and I have been friends for probably 45 years, dating back to our time in Austin. We both joined Luther King Capital Management on June 1st, 1983, just a few years ago. I was a partner there for 20 years. Paul continues in his leadership role with the firm. Paul is a graduate of the University of Missouri. His daughter went to Notre Dame, and so, as he says, his money went there with her. And he is very involved in the community. He's been the chair of the Finance Committee of the Fort Worth Club. He chairs the Endowment Committee of the Boys and Girls Club. He was one of the founders of the STAR Scholarship Program here in town. He is an avid pool player and has probably been the billiard champion here in the Fort Worth Club for 10 or 20 consecutive years. I'm not quite sure what your record is. A big Texas Rangers baseball fan and a big football fan. He's here to talk to you today about the Davy O'Brien Foundation, where he chairs the board there. And if you have not taken advantage of the opportunity to see the Davy O'Brien room on the 11th floor, or to attend a dinner every year on President's Day, that's really a Fort Worth tradition that you shouldn't miss out on. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Paul Greenwell.
Thank you, Robert. Great crowd. As Robert said, my day job is investment counseling business, and I'm glad to go anywhere that I don't have to talk about the stock market. So thanks for that. Appreciate the relief on that. I grew up in Maryland, or as they say, Marlin. Yeah, that accent, I pick it up if by chance I go back there. And been in Texas 45 years. When I came to Texas, everyone would always ask, what was it like growing up a Yankee? And so for a long time, I'd carry around a map of the United States and show them where the Mason-Dixon line was. And then I discovered Texans think anything north of the Red River is a Yankee, and so it really didn't bother me too much. When I go home to Maryland and people say, tell me about Fort Worth, I tell them it's the greatest place. I love it. The people are wonderful. They're generous. And they say, well, what is Fort Worth known for? You know, if Akron's the tire capital and Toledo is the glass capital and Detroit's the auto capital, what exactly is, where does Fort Worth fit? What is exactly what do you think of them from a national standpoint? And so pondering that, I thought about the things that I view as being a national, and certainly not an exclusive list, but, you know, the Van Cliburn International Piano Competition, world-class entity. The museums here, I think of in terms of being, you know, certainly the best from here to the West Coast, and we've got a whole slew of them. The Fort Worth Expo, a livestock show, Dickey's Arena, a big addition to that, great class operation. And what we're talking about today is something we're trying to instill as part of that, and over 50 years, we've made some good strides, and that's what's called the Davy O'Brien Foundation, which is based here in Fort Worth at this club, and is the National Quarterback Award. And so in a couple of minutes today, I'd like to tell you kind of what the Davy O'Brien is, who Davy was, how to get started, how does it function, and what are the challenges around it, because any organization, charitable organization, you know, has that. Robert David Davy O'Brien was born in Dallas. He attended Woodrow Wilson High School, which is on the east side of Dallas. It's one of the only public high school in the United States that's had 2 Heisman Trophy winners, Timmy Brown being the other. He came to Fort Worth. He backed up Sammy Baugh, who's probably better known today because of his extensive pro career. And his senior year, he led TCU to its national championship by winning the Sugar Bowl over Carnegie Mellon, and he went on to win both the Heisman and the Maxwell Award. While less known than certainly many that followed him, certainly away from Fort Worth, Davy still holds 87 years record, the NCAA college record for most plays running or passing as a player. That record has never been broken. What was truly remarkable about him is that his size, even for his day, he was 5'7", 150 pounds, which was pretty small in the quarterback standards. He was the first Heisman winner, the 4th winner of the Heisman. He was the first Heisman winner to ever play professional football. The first 3 turned it down because there wasn't enough money in it. You have to think in terms of, in those days, it was baseball, horse racing, boxing, college football. Those were the big deals. Pro football wasn't there. There wasn't any money in it. There wasn't any reason to do it. He agreed to do it if he became the highest paid player, which I believe was $10,000 a year, and took a 2-year contract on the consideration that he was only going to do this for 2 years. He set many rookie records, and in his 2nd year led the NFL in passing. It was interesting, I doubt if many in this room knew Mr. Carter, Amon Carter, the senior, but Amon was a big proponent of Fort Worth, obviously. He died in 1955. He built this club. He made it what it is. He was the leader, clearly the leader in Fort Worth. Well, when Davy won the Heisman Trophy and went to New York, he gave the call to the Downtown Athletic Club and said, what kind of parade are you putting on? And they said, well, Mr. Carter, we don't do a parade. We just do we do a banquet and award it. He said, well, that's not good enough. So he hired a stagecoach with 6 white horses, and he put he and Davy rode on that. He put cowboy boots on him, so Davy could be 5'9", and he put big old cowboy hat on him, which Davy never wore. He did wear a Western hat, but not cowboy hat, and he rode up and down the streets of New York, touting Fort Worth and TCU and the national championship. So a very unusual guy. He retired from football, professional football, worked for the FBI. He specialized in training marksmen. He was one of these guys who could hold a mirror up and shoot behind him and hit targets and so forth. So he was one heck of a shot. He eventually retired, became a businessman here in Fort Worth, was an active member in this club. He was the first color commentator for the Cowboys when they were founded in 1960. Unfortunately, Mr. O'Brien died early in life, 60. In 1977, and as a result of that, some of his friends, led by Charles Ringler, got together and said, we really need to honor this man who's done so much for Fort Worth, and he created the Davy O'Brien Memorial Trophy, which was given originally to the outstanding player in the southwestern part of the United States. The early winners were Earl Campbell, Billy Sims out of Oklahoma, and Mike Singletary. In 1981, the award was renamed the Davy O'Brien Award, and largely at the suggestion of Keith Jackson, became the National College Quarterback Award, which honored the selection of the selection committee's pick that year as the best quarterback. Subsequent to that, there have been 4 winners who have repeated, double winners. Danny Warfel out of Florida, Ty Detmer out of BYU, Jason White out of Oklahoma, and Deshaun Watson out of Clemson. In the 1980s, this club, which has always been the home of the O'Brien, allow the foundation to create we call a Hall of Fame room, and that's on the 11th floor. If you haven't had a chance to visit that, please do it. It's really a classy situation where the folks could be honored in perpetuity. More recently, it was expanded into Davy O'Brien Lounge, which is a popular after-work and early dinner venue. Interestingly enough, there is no award or no place to go to see the Heisman winners. There's no Heisman room. There's no spot for the Heisman. The same would be said for the Maxwell, which is the other big award in college football. So this is the only place where you can go and actually see a display of all of those for a National Football Award, away from obviously the College Football Hall of Fame. The purpose of the organization today is to give scholarships to outstanding high school student athletes for their achievements on and off the field within the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. And our local high school selection, headed by David O'Brien Jr., selects those students annually. We have awarded about $2 million in scholarships and expanded our outreach to other local charities that are impacting our community. The way it works is Dallas, Tarrant County, and any county that's contiguous to that, any high school within that that has some sports participation is allowed to make one nominee. So there's about 300 schools that would fall into that category. They're allowed to make one nominee from each school, send it into a selection committee, and that's moved down into, come up with the final five. Five winners each are presented an award, scholarship to help them through college, and the winner is given currently $30,000 a year. We've been able to bump that nicely over the years. The good news about our award is after some tough competition among others, it is clearly now recognized without any question as the National Quarterback Award. And it's when the ESPN does an annual show the couple of days before the Heisman presentation in New York, and the various awards around the country, including the Maxwell, the Doak Walker, the Mackey Award, all of which are for different position players. The Quarterback Award, which in our view is clearly the most important of those, is the very first one presented. And so the show highlights it's from Fort Worth, and so it's an outstanding contribution to us. Our selection committee for the Quarterback Award is made up of roughly 100 professional journalists who are required each year to follow football. That wouldn't seem like such a tough requirement, but what's happened over the years is we think some of the voting for some of the organizational events and so forth and other awards have probably gotten a little scattered. For example, the Heisman has well over 1,000 people voting for that award. We would argue you can't find 1,000 people that know anything about football. But by restricting it to folks who actually follow and have to write on football, we think that makes each vote very important. In addition, the former winners are allowed to vote. So it's based on athletic ability, academics, character, reputation, leadership, and along with that, we have a fan vote, which is done electronically on a weekly basis, which represent 5% of the vote. And in today's media world, it's real important to engage with those folks, and we've continued to work on that. It's also important to know we as board members do not vote. That becomes real important when there's some local players who people get excited about. I can remember Walter Littlejohn who heads the club, calling me one day and saying, I've been caught, that he had been reached out to by a member here at the club who said, if TCU doesn't win this award, I'm going to cancel my membership at the Fort Worth Club. And so we had to kind of send out little notices. We do not vote. We don't pick this guy, so, get off our case. And that's helped us a lot. There was a time I thought, well, that wouldn't be a bad idea to do it. I guarantee you that's a bad policy, so stay away from it. Our primary fundraising event and award ceremony is held annually at this club. It's in this room and adjoining rooms. in February, and it's designed to follow the old Heisman format. And I say that because today the Heisman and Doak Walker and Maxwell have all gone to a big ballroom setting. It's not very formal, several thousand people. We've kept it real small. Just like if you looked at films of the Heisman Trophy from the 30s and 40s and 50s, even the Heisman has gone to a big format. And the logic around it is, it's hard to make it work numbers-wise. So the most folks we could have is 600. And even those, in many cases, have to view screens as opposed to direct shot on. So it becomes difficult to raise the kind of money you want to help with your scholarships. It's a black tie event. Former winners regularly attend. Jim McMahon, longtime Bears quarterback and played in the NFL, was one of our early winners, and he has made probably 40 of the last 45 events, so regularly comes. In addition to that, we have a regular created annual kickoff event that we've tried to build to also build the funds sufficient to support our scholarship efforts. In addition to honoring our college football award and our high school winner, we annually have a Legends Award, which traditionally was honoring a former quarterback that had played in the NFL or college, that had an impact on the sport, and allow them to come and speak. And obviously, when you think in terms of what can go wrong with our event, the worst thing would be go wrong is our guy doesn't show up. And so having a legend winner kind of gives you a little backup on that. This year, we expanded that to really include coaches, and we were lucky enough to have Mac Brown, who was just an outstanding speaker and does such a great job, and was so, retiring this year, and he was so honored to receive that. Cam Ward was the college winner this year. Outstanding young man. The University of Miami was very well represented at our event. They were excited. The University of Miami started calling the foundation in the middle of the football season, saying, "We're going to be there in February. We're going to be there," and sure enough, they were. We've been fortunate enough to have several good executive directors who office here at the club for the O'Brien. Currently, Kendall Cason-Isles, who has held the position for a number of years, heads up our day-to-day operation. We have a volunteer board of 35. We lean heavily on her suggestions and recommendations. She's done an outstanding job for us. Challenges. Any organization has challenges, and ours is certainly not exempt from that, but the challenges are a little bit different for us than they would be for others. We talked about you can only have 600 seats. 600 seats, you can only charge so much, so you always worry about, one, do you get a winner that people don't want to come see, or you lose support over the years? Most of you attend various charitable events. They tend to have a life cycle. 10 to 12 years has been my experience. This one has been able to hold together for 50, but you always worry about that. If you need to update the format, you need to do something different. But when you only got 600 seats, it's always a little bit of a challenge. And as I said, the other events, Heisman, Doak Walker, Maxwell, they've all gone to a completely different format. While the Davy O'Brien is the National Quarterback Award, as designated by ESPN at its annual award show, there are other quarterback awards that we have to compete with. The Mannings, obviously a very prominent quarterback family in New Orleans, has an annual quarterback award. We worry a little bit about whether that would be something perhaps ESPN would pick up and try to make a much bigger deal of it. Manning family is very gracious. In fact, Peyton was one of our quarterback winners, and Archie was our legend winner. At this stage, we don't see that as a major issue, but we have to continue to worry about it. There's a National Quarterback Award out of Baltimore for the Johnny Unitas Award. The format is different. They honor the outstanding the outstanding senior quarterback each year. And in the past, there have been others. There was actually a Sammy Ball Award, which was honored, which was presented for 20, 30 years out of Columbus, Ohio. but basically it faded away. It had a life cycle and went away. But you do worry about, can other awards, particularly in an environment where, you know, we may talk about Davy O'Brien, know who he is, and be proud of him, but around the country, he's, as time goes on and with his limited pro career, he's less known in other cases. We do not have a national sponsor for our event. You have any suggestions? We'll glad to talk to them. That's something we have considered. Anytime you have a national sponsor, you give up certain things, and we're not sure what we're willing to trade for that. We're not particularly concerned about building a pile of money as we are cementing ourselves as a National Quarterback Award, so that would certainly be part of the consideration, but that's certainly something we're interested in achieving. One of the concerns is in today's world of college football, the players want money for everything, including coming to get awards. We have not had been up against this. Some of the other awards have. It's amazing that you would give an outstanding, what we think of as a prestigious award, and they said, well, I'll be glad to come get it. You're going to pay me for it. But there is that trend. At this stage, we've been able to fight that off. I know this year Cam Ward would have played his own way to come get his award. But you know, that is something that concerns us and may down the road have to be addressed. In closing, let me say that the Davie National Quarterback Award would not exist were it not for this club. This club stood when we didn't have a nickel in the bank. It helped with banquets. It helps with office space. The space given to us on the 11th floor, which again, if you haven't seen, please go down and see. It's certainly there's been some benefits the O'Brien has given to them also, but this club has gone way beyond what you would expect, and so I applaud them for those efforts. And particularly those that are, I'd also like to thank those in this room and others who attend the event regularly. It's a Monday night. It's a holiday. It's been President's Day historically, so it's not an easy one. Most of us have to get up and go to work the next day, so being in a black tie on Monday is not necessarily all you want it to be. But we try to make it a real good event, and without your attendance, we wouldn't be able to make it. But we want to continue to fight to keep the O'Brien affiliated closely with Fort Worth. The Heisman is much less affiliated with New York than it was. The Maxwells had to leave Philadelphia because of a lack of a support. And we want to keep it right here in Fort Worth and keep it real special. With that closing, I'll be glad to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about in questions. And those are real important. About 15 years ago, somebody came up to me after a presentation very similar to this at the Rotary and said, have you guys ever thought about inviting Eddie LeBaron to be a legend? And I can see the stunned faces out. Who was Eddie LeBaron? Eddie LeBaron was an All-American, played on the West Coast, and he was the first quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. He was also on the radio. He also did color for the Cowboys, as Mr. O'Brien did. He'd been retired for many years, and quite frankly, I had to look up and make sure that Eddie was still with us, and he was in his 90s, and we got in touch with him, and he was so excited that somebody thought about him, and he came into town and did a great job, and we were very pleased to do that. So you got any good ideas for us, please let us know.
Not only because of how the event was run, but your speakers were all pretty darn good. I mean, it's usually the high school guy or gal is the best speaker of the night. But this time, Mac was great, and his introducer.
You bring up a great point, Bob. Bob was talking about how the speakers were particularly outstanding. We went to a little different format. The college football quarterback winners often, they're not good public speakers. Okay. Don't quote me. And so what we tried for years, what do we do about this? What we do, well, we sent them a tape of the event and said, here's kind of how it works. and I'm not sure that wasn't the reason some of them hesitated about coming. And so we decided that what would be a whole, because you're exactly right, the high school guys are always the best. They just blow everybody away. Makes you feel good about America watching some of these young kids. But what we went to is a format where it was more of an interview for the high school, for the college quarterback winners. They're much more relaxed in that setting, and it seems to just go over better. Everything's on a time schedule. We try to keep it to 2 hours. Again, it's a Monday night, but we've gone to a little different format. Again, try to make it a little more modern, but the interview process with the quarterback winner, and that's not to say all of them are that way, but certainly a large number, they, really not used to getting up making speeches, and being interviewed is a lot better for them.
You mentioned the high school kids doing such a great job with their presentation. That raises two questions in my mind. Number one, do you have all 5 of the scholarship winners at the event and they each speak? And secondly, you mentioned athletics. You didn't specify football. So can those high school kids be athletes from any other sport?
Great questions. We have five finalists, and we do a luncheon, and at that luncheon, none of the kids speak, but we talk about their exploits, and then we announce the winner and give some awards to them. The only one of only the finalist speaks on that Monday night. Again, trying to keep the program under control. So we only have one speaker that particular night handle that. It's any sport, and it's any sport sanctioned by whoever the sanctioning body is in the state of Texas for high school sports, which includes cheerleading now. So, I mean, it can be basically any sport and as a rule, I would say it has more of an academic bent than it does an athletic bent, but the athletics, you have to participate in that and show leadership and things such as that. But we don't really care what sport these kids are in. And it's guys and gals, of course.
What's one of your more memorable years for the awards?
Can't tell some of the stories. Of course, we've had really interesting folks. I think that, this is a little off the subject, but former winners coming back is real unusual. The Heisman got a lot of money. The Heisman was broke basically years ago, and Nissan came in and saved them, and they threw a lot of money at that thing. And they pay the players to come back every year. I mean, we don't do that. We cover their expenses, but we still have 6, 7 guys come back every year, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. They take time out of their schedule to be here because they think it's that important. That really impresses me when you talk to them. We've had a couple instances where we didn't know if we're going to get our guy here. I won't mention names, but they came down to where, what happens is that if you're a senior, of course, you're about to go into your tryouts, and your tryouts are just a couple of weeks off. The college has completely lost control of you as a player, and your agent has taken over. And your agent doesn't really care about you winning this Davy O'Brien. He's trying to make as much money as he can for you. And so he wants to get you out there to the practice field to show kind of what you can do. Well, there isn't much space in there time-wise, an issue we're having to deal with increasingly. And so in a couple of cases, the agents got a hold of these guys and at the last minute said, he doesn't have time to do that. We'll send his mother, to get the award. And so, we had to scramble, and at the generosity of some longtime folks who are interested in football here, we're able to get a private jet to go over and pick them up and bring them back and so forth. So we've had a little bit of that. It's a little scrambling at the end. Sometimes you're just unfortunate. This year, the University of Miami coach, who's an outstanding speaker, was supposed to come and introduce Cam Ward, and we would love to have had him because he's real engaging guy, but his plane plane couldn't get off the ground for bad weather in Miami. So, you know, it's sort of bad luck that way. We'd love to have coaches contend, and some do and some don't. As a general rule, they don't. They've got pretty full schedules, but, you know, again, it's a trade-off between making the program more interesting for football fans, because you have some real diehard fans in that room, to making it so long that you run people out of the room, and how do you kind of manage that effectively?
Paul, you mentioned that one of the criteria is academics. I know we dropped that from the Hogan Award criteria. Just wondering how much weight it gets.
You have to be in good standing, you know. So in cases, we do check out to make sure that the kids are in school and going to school, okay? Now, that wouldn't seem like much of a requirement, but compared to where we were 5 years ago, when I can tell you, I'm not sure some of these guys even know where the campus is in relation to the football field, but just my opinion. But that, it's a consideration, and certainly they have to be, you know, in school and working toward a degree. In most cases, our kids historically have been pretty good students, some obviously better than others, but it's certainly a consideration for us. So we don't go in and check grades, if that's what you mean, or what their class attendance was, but we have a, you know, what kind of person are you, or, you know, what kind of character you have. So we do actually screen all the players for any violation, legal record, you know, anything they've been, and there've actually been a couple of cases we have eliminated players. We do that a little bit earlier before we get to the last 2 or 3, of course, but you screen those out. And we have done that a couple of times, just for reasons that we thought the character was not consistent with what the O'Brien represented.
Another question?
Sir.
Talk about how it's getting expensive and that you're going to have to pay players on a relative basis compared to the other awards to the side for the Heisman. What is the economics of putting on an event like that look like today, and what do you think it looks like 5 years?
Wow. We are not, let me be clear, we are not paying players, and we do not intend to do that, but I'm not saying we could not get in a situation where it was that or don't show up. Okay. I do know in some cases there have been some other awards that have taken a little different route on that. That would change the dynamics pretty substantially for us, because of the 600 people maximum that you've got. If that's the only thing you've got to raise money, and you've got to pay a bunch of money for somebody to come, that, you know, that may have to be, we may have to rethink the structure of the whole thing. I don't know the finances of the other organizations, except to say that, you know, I've heard that a number of them have had some financial issues. We're in good shape financially. That's not to say if our attendance were not to be down, down sharply, or we had to pay players, that couldn't change. But, you know, we can keep the lights on here a few years. So, you know, we're in pretty good shape, and we continue to raise that. The goal is, of course, to raise the dollar amount in scholarships and to broaden it. And we want to do that because it's real important to Fort Worth and real important to those folks. So, but the actual dollars and cents of others and what their numbers look like, I'm not really sure. I can tell you our dinner is profitable. We put money in the bank every year and continue to build a nest egg for rainy days. I mean, COVID was not good for our entity, I can tell you. That was a rough year and made things pretty difficult for us, but we got through it, and thanks to support of a lot of longstanding board members, as well as people who bought tables and contributed that. But you know, those kind of things come up every now and then. Hopefully not again in my lifetime. but you know, they do challenge you pretty severely.
Another question?
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Paul, thank you so much for sharing. What an amazing bit of history we just learned. And Dave O'Brien that just adds to the uniqueness of our community, Fort Worth. Thank you. We appreciate that tremendously. And remember, they are open to a national sponsor, so keep that in mind. Appreciate it. Just one more question. Where is that Davy O'Brien Club? Anybody know? We hope we see you there soon. Thank you for joining us today. Everyone, just a few closing announcements. Thank you to the Metropolitan Touring for sponsoring today's meeting. You too can visit the Galapagos Islands. I had it sitting there for a moment. Galapagos Islands and Ecuador. That's right. And you can see Maria and she will take care of you. Thank you to our fabulous Richard L. Knight RMBA sponsors. We appreciate you. That event is coming up. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be fantastic. Also, we always like to thank our Rotarian Gordon Boswell for the beautiful florals that he has ongoing every week here. He's a former Rotarian, and that just highlights our meeting space here. And there's always somebody special we give it to at the end of the meeting, and that could be you today. You don't want to miss next week's meeting. It is time for our four-way test speech competition with the Young Women's Leadership Academy. Have a great weekend, everyone. We are adjourned.